Welcome to Mind Your Wedding Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. We have the one and only Tom Chelednik. Did I do it right? Was that close?
That's
right.
Perfect.
Woohoo! From the Knot. So he is the master of everything to do with sales and marketing. So Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First off, Kevin, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So a little bit about myself is I have been in sales and marketing for a very long time, probably like 28 years. I worked for the Knot for 12 years in many different roles at the Knot. I was director of sales, sales leadership, director of training and enablement. But during those first 10 years, I traveled 70% of the year learning from wedding pros and taking that information and then sharing that information. And traveled meaning like 70% of the year. Then the Knot and Wedding Wire merged, and it took about a year and a half to merge the sales teams. So I was part of that group of merging the sales and marketing teams. And that was interesting. Then we moved, I sat on a bunch of wedding venue board of directors and advisory boards across the country. And one of them tapped me to be the COO of a venue group here in Florida, 2 Luxe venues. And originally I said, no, I got it good. And I thought, well, that's stupid, Tom. Like, go learn what it's like to be on your side of the business, Kevin. Like, what's that like, to run a venue and deal with all that? So I did that for 2 years, learned a lot. And then I came back. It's sort of what's old is new again. I'm back to traveling the country, probably more than 70% a year at this point.
Oh, wow.
Still learning from wedding pros and teaching and helping pros become more successful in all their marketing, advertising, and bookings. So that's where we're at.
So you help us get better is what you're saying.
I really try. And I think it's interesting at this point in my career, I believe this comes across. I am not looking for titles anymore. I'm not looking for, the aspect of hiring and firing and all that within my career. I just want to help. That's it. I want to help internally, our wedding pros across the country, and internally, and educating our internal people in the Knot about weddings and the pain points of our clients and the challenges and the successes. So I'm like, I've always say this, I have the perfect job. For me, it is like the best job at the Knot for me where I am right now. So it's great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. So we're going to get into the topic today is do the math on your wedding business and make changes based on facts, not feelings. So it's going to be, I think, which a lot of us do is we're really good at our art and not really good at the business side of what we do. So let's start off with like, how can business owners take the emotion out of making decisions?
Well, first off, we're in a really interesting time in weddings this year. Last year and certainly through this year. And I talk to literally thousands of wedding pros, sometimes a month. I talk to hundreds of wedding pros across the country, all different categories, every single month. And everybody's in this point where we have the perfect storm. I call it the perfect storm three ways. Number one, the economy is affecting more weddings than ever before. Still plenty of people get married, still plenty of budget, but they're being more careful. We have 2 million weddings taking place this year, and we're expecting, the Knot with all its data, we can forecast, and we're usually pretty right on. We're expecting about 2 million weddings next year, but that's really down from the past couple of years, 2.1 to 2.5, 2.6. So there are less weddings, and everybody's feeling that. But one thing that I consistently hear and see where wedding pros are struggling and they're making decisions based on feelings rather than facts is the fact is we have a generational shift that's happening with Gen Z. And I'm sure many people that's listening to this podcast have hopefully listened to a bunch of other podcasts, read about Gen Z, but it's a different generation. Those of us who have been around a long time realize when there's a generational shift, you have to look at your entire business. It doesn't change overnight because as a generation keeps getting older and more of your clientele, your business changes. I just said this to somebody this morning. If you look back at your business, we go 2 years in advance, and it's 2 years in advance, and we look back to today, your business probably has changed quite a bit. And if it hasn't, you're really going to struggle. So pricing, products, marketing, advertising, how are you responding? Everything, the look, the feel of websites, social media, all that really changes over the course of time. So where I see people really struggling is the fact that feelings are getting in the way of improving their business to adjust to this next generation, on top of everything else that's going on in the year. So, feelings, you're making decisions based on feelings, you're going to be out of business, period, eventually, or you're going to really struggle. When you're making decisions based on facts, it improves your accuracy, right? You take that emotional response out that can lead to biases, overlooking critical details. The other thing based on facts is predictable outcomes. You pretty much know, if you don't make any changes to your business, where you're going to end up this time next year. If you know your numbers that we're going to review. The other thing is when you focus on areas, when you figure out areas that need improvements, and you invest in those areas, you do better. You become more profitable, right? You get more weddings. Instead of this idea of the feelings, I feel that the not wedding wire isn't working. I feel that my website is doing better. You feel, what does feelings mean to do with it?
Yeah, there's no facts.
Increase accountability, right? Increase accountability. It's up to you. Like this person I was talking to this morning, it's your job. You're the owner of this unbelievable, it had to be an entertainment company too, unbelievable big entertainment company out there. And you just said to me, I feel, and boy, I said, you need to listen to this podcast I'm going to do.
Oh, how funny.
But the numbers, if you consistently look at your numbers, it will show continuous improvement on in your business. We can't hide from the numbers.
Yeah, no. And I think that's,
well,
no. And I think we all get locked into the emotion of it all and trying to outdo our competitors or whoever on Instagram, there's a lot of us that get into
outside
that.
Influences are coming.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, don't worry about anybody else. Every DJ in California is not your competitor. They're not.
No.
So
I agree. All right. So before you got on, you were telling me about a case study. So can we dive into that?
Well, we can't. So I feel like I have a case study every single day. Somebody's calling and needing help. And I love that part of the job. But in March of 2024, I can't share their name because they don't want me to, but it was a photographer here in Florida. I live in South Florida, but it was on the other side of Florida. And big photography company, they were used to doing 50, 60, 70 weddings a year. And here it is, March, and engagement season, booking season is about done with them. And they had 7 weddings booked.
Oh, geez.
7 weddings for 2024. So they were making decisions based on feelings, right? Just, had no clue. And they were in a panic. They had a full-time staff of 4 people, full-time paying people, full-time staff, editors, photographers, a social media person, a marketing person. They were, big company.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that we really identified is, do you have a lead problem or do you have a booking problem? Most people that I talk to, they're getting enough leads. They're just not booking enough of those leads. In this particular case, they had a lead problem too, because they were only averaging about 20 leads a month. 21 exactly a month. So I said, okay, let's back down here. Let's take it. What's the goal for 2024? At minimum, they needed to do 50 weddings. They said, I need to do 50 weddings. So then we just started talking about the math, right? So the first thing that I look at when I'm talking to a client about math and improvements and things like that is, let's look at your cost per lead. First off, do you know how much every one of those leads are costing you? And if you only do it for 6 months, take all your leads you got for 6 months. Doesn't matter where they came from, Instagram, the Wedding Wire website, wherever they came from. and take all the money that you spent on those leads for the past 6 months, and what's your cost per lead? That's very enlightening. Many wedding pros don't do that. Kevin, do you do that?
No, I don't. So I'm guilty too.
I want you to, because why is that important? Because it should give you a sense of urgency that you paid for that lead. You as the owner paid for that lead. You as the owner that has somebody else following up on leads for you or doing sales, for you to be able to communicate to them and say, listen, we're paying for these leads. And in this particular case scenario, they were paying $23 a lead, which wasn't a lot of money. They were spending a lot of money and they weren't getting a lot of money. They were spending a lot of money and they weren't getting a lot of leads. They only averaged 21 leads per month, So, but $23 per lead, they were spending, right? So that then took me down this path with them of how many times are you following up on those leads? Right? Like it logically, like you paid $23. How many times are you swinging the bat? They were only swinging the bat 3 times in 2 weeks. That was it. Okay. So I was like, okay, we need to fix that. The next thing that we looked at was the lead to booking percent, right? That's the big number. Take all your leads divided by the number of the number of bookings and divide those numbers together, right? That, in this particular case, in March of 2024, for them, it was 6%. They were having 6% of all their leads turn into bookings.
Wow.
And it wasn't enough, right? So, and you can analyze if nothing would stay the same, if everything would stay the same, they wouldn't make any changes, how many weddings they would have had in 2024. I think it was 15 off the top of my head. I think it was a total of 15. Far from their goal of 50.
Yeah, 100%. Okay? Yeah.
So from there, okay, that's like the big number. Well, how do you eat an elephant? Sort of that one bite of a time. I then go into, and a lot of people aren't doing this now, and it's so important to do, your leads to two-way conversations. So out of 10 leads that you receive, again, does not matter where it's coming from, 10 leads that you receive, how many times did somebody hit reply and you had a two-way conversation going back, or picked up the phone or texted you at that point? So that number in this case study was 2 out of 10 actually hit reply. Okay. Which some people would say, not bad. Other people would like, oh, that's horrible, depending on your business. But that was not nearly enough for this particular person. Why is it important to know like how many people are actually hitting reply? Because that'll take us down a path of, well, let's look at your follow-up. Let's look at your content of your follow-up. How many times you're following up? Are you making phone calls? Are you texting? Takes us down a path. All these numbers take us down a path. So now I'm going to recap. Now we know our cost per lead. Now we know our leads to booking percentage. Now we know our lead to two-way conversation. Okay. From there, out of those two-way conversations that happen, how many actually turned into a sales consultation? So not the actual sales consultation yet, but how many turned into them? In this particular case, only 1 out of 10 were turning those replies into an actual consultation, which was an extremely low number. So where does that take us down? Like, again, if you're visioning a road and we're on this road of two-way conversations to sales consultation, and there's an exit ramp. We're getting off this exit ramp like full speed ahead here. So there was lots of discussion around, well, what are you saying in that two-way reply? How is that going? And that took us down the road. So then the last one, which some people know, is their sales consultations to bookings. If you're a venue, sales consultation to tours, I always look at, and then venue tours to bookings. And in this particular case, this photographer was overall 3 out of 10 sales consultation. So there was lots of room, 3 out of 10 of their sales consultation into bookings, which is a very low number.
Oh yeah, I agree.
once you get to a sales consultation, if you're doing everything else right and it's this, you're connecting with that client, they should already know your pricing, your style, your availability, all of those things. That should be a much higher number.
Yeah,
So
I always think eight out of 10, 7 out of 10 would be a good number.
I always strive for 7 out of 10. But it's interesting in my role too, because I see so many all these numbers are different. I always say, so what's a good number? That good number is like whatever you need it to be to hit your goals.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A 3 out of 10 sales consultation, you're doing a lot of work and not booking a lot. So you need to like weed at the beginning so you get to that 7 out of 8 for sure. But it's and those numbers are different in categories and markets across the country. One thing that's changed this year too is instead of emailing 3 to 5 vendors, they're emailing 5 to 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the competition, imagine your inbox, right? Like
your
inbox, this is your email, and you get a lead, you respond to it, and then it's going down, 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 down. If you're not staying at the top of the inbox, it's not that it's not a real lead.
Yeah.
It's not ghosting you. You just got lost.
Yeah. Is that part of the generational shift, you think? Or
100% of the generational shift.
Okay.
Then the generational shift wants to deal with people that built that. This is part of the lead reply cadence and the content of those lead replies. You have to build trust and rapport in your lead replies. You have to be helpful before they're even going to hit reply back. So yes, that first email that you send, yes, we're available and this is the pricing. And hopefully you're bullet pointing, the 5 or 10 things or 8 things that you actually do. And we ended it open in a question. But then I'm going to back up a minute and let's talk about sales funnel. In the old days of last year, even it's olden days at this point in the world, we would think you get a lead, the goal is to book it, right? If you get a lead, you reply, you get a 2-way conversation going and you book it. In the middle of that sales consult and that sales funnel knowledge, you get a lead, you reply. Within your replies, you're building trust, you're building rapport, you're being helpful, you're giving a sense of urgency just to get a reply. Where people are not, where I see people succeeding is they're doing that, building that trust and rapport in their lead replies. They've changed that, or they're being helpful. The people that are struggling, they haven't changed what they're doing. I mean, I just saw 2 weeks ago, their first lead reply was 680 words. 680 words.
That's a lot.
Here's a great tip. Take your lead reply, your first one even, and give it to somebody not in your business, a neighbor, and let them read it and count to 12. At 12 seconds, you stop them and ask them, what are your 2 takeaways? And to encourage you to hit reply. And do that every single one of your email follow-ups. I'll guarantee you're probably going to make some changes. You got 12 seconds. That's it. They're either going to read on or they're going to hit reply in 12 seconds.
Wow. So it's not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time. World's changing. World's changing. So I'm doing lots of talking. What questions do you have?
Well, I was like, so we were talking about all these numbers and all the different things. And one thing that you mentioned, I want to know like what numbers should we be paying attention to? But then also earlier, it's like, 3 times response is not a good time. So how many times should we be responding to people? So I got 2 questions in one there.
Okay. So, I think the first question is what number should you pay attention at? Okay. So let's recap that. Everybody write this down and you can email me. I guess my information will be at the end of this. So you can email me. Okay. So please do. It's part of my job, right? So what's your cost per lead? Don't get hung up on it, right? Whatever. I have a band in Miami. When I was doing this exercise with him, we figured out his cost per lead is $181. I thought he was going to crucify me. I was nervous. And he was like, I'm okay with that because he's booking a lot. And when he's booking a $25,000, $30,000 band. The cost per lead, you want to also know how many percentage of leads to bookings, right? Total percentage of leads to booking. Take all your leads divided by the number of bookings. The leads to 2-way conversations. Okay. So how many leads? Say 10 out of 10 leads, how many turned into a 2-way conversation? Then out of those 10 2-way conversations, how many turned into a sales consultation? And then out of 10 sales consultations, how many are you booking? if you know, or when you know those numbers, it will take you down a path to be able to fix them. As far as follow-up, I think that was your next question, as far as like follow-up. I see this across the country. And again, category and market really does not matter to me with this. You want to stay at the top of their inbox at minimum. In the perfect world that I live in the venues that I was running, and still all these people that I consult with, at minimum, you're following up 7 times over the course of 30 days.
7 times in 30 days. Okay.
That's just email. If you have a phone number, before you even send that email, you should be picking up the phone, calling it, saying, hey, you're probably going to leave a message. After you leave a message, you're going to text them and say, hey, just left you a message, about to send you an email. You should follow up at least, at minimum, 2 more times via text and phone call. If you have a phone number from the Not or Wedding Wire, from your website or whatever, that means that they've given you the permission to call and text.
Yeah.
Do that. I was in Austin a couple months ago doing a lead presentation, or a roundtable presentation, just with 20 people. And an officiant, I said, how many people in the room call their leads? No. Well, why? Well, it's intrusive. I'm like, first off, you're in sales. Second, you're here trying to learn to do better and have more bookings. You got to pick up the phone. Well, an officiant, in the meantime, got a lead from the Not. I couldn't have paid this guy, right? Like, I couldn't have paid it for it. And we're all like, call him. There was a phone number. Call him. So he calls it, and we sat there and listened to him, and he booked it on the spot in 20 minutes.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was, he picked up the phone. Fast forward 3 hours later, another officiant came up to me at the end of the night saying, listen, I got a lead from the Not earlier. I said, well, who is it? I looked. I said, don't bother calling it. He already booked it because he called it first.
Yeah.
So call your leads. So 7 times, 3 phone calls. Then in the perfect world in which I live, I put it on hold for 10 days. And then I create another 4 email sequence. And those email sequences are really a lot of tips and tricks and fun and little salesy here and there. And then maybe I give up. Maybe I don't. I know entertainment companies out there that will send for 2 years.
Wow.
Following up. If you're a venue or you're a planner, after that rest of 10 days, a venue will put it on hold for maybe 30 to 40 days, and then go after another email sequence for rehearsal dinners, post brunches, planners doing the same thing. Remember, you paid for that lead. Just because they didn't book that wedding doesn't mean you shouldn't be using that lead for other opportunities, or birthdays, or portraits, or whatever your category is. So I think that's where I see that in the wedding industry, we don't do a good job. But you have to have automations set. Kevin, do you have any automations?
So we went to a new CRM that doesn't do any automations. And the reason why we did is because it's an inventory base. And so it's the best of the worst, if that makes any sense. And so we are in the process of realizing that we need the automations, because it's too manual to be going through and updating. So we're going to go through the process of using 2 CRMs. So we're going to use, the one is inventory management and the other one is a CRM. And so that's what we're in the process of.
I mean, you could just get like software like Flowdesk or Chipmail and just use it as a workflow. You don't have I mean, plenty of, like, I have a side hustle. I use Flowdesk. It's my CRM. It's $27 or $30 a month as my workflow. But I can't expect anybody out there to do their day job and everything else that comes with, weddings and in general in business, to follow up that many times. However, follow the money. If you don't follow the money with your business, you'll have no business to service.
I got you.
So you could do
automations in Flowdesk?
Absolutely. I do it all.
Oh, wow. Well, that's amazing. I didn't know that. Yep. We use Flowdesk for our newsletters and stuff, so I didn't even realize that.
Create a whole other workflow within Flowdesk.
Oh, that is awesome. All right. So I don't pretend I'm a business owner that is either afraid of numbers, don't like the numbers. Should I hire someone to help me with the numbers? What should I do? Go to Wedding MBA or go to a conference and learn?
The interesting thing is I've never really seen any conference out there that really digs into this as much as as much as you can do on one-on-one. And I don't think if you're not a numbers person, then find somebody that likes the numbers, but you have to have the data available, right? Like a good CRM will have data available for you. You'll be able to pull a report that says, hey, I've gotten, 210 leads in the past 6 months and I've booked 30 of them. That's an easy number to pull. If you're using a CRM, you can have your salespeople or yourself, make sure you're tagging things or making tasks to be able to follow. But at the end of the day, most of us aren't looking at the numbers that way or if it was that easy, they'd be making decisions based on facts. So my suggestion is simply like this in this case study, and this person I talked to last week, or actually this morning, I'm like, okay, then you manually need to go in and do it. And if that exercise takes you 3 days or 2 days or 1 day, whatever that makes, will make factual decisions based on your future and your business. So it's worth the investment. So if that means you're going through spreadsheets, looking at how many leads and how many bookings and how many times people, then that's what you need. That's what you need to do. The math is easy. You take two numbers and you divide them. But the coming up with the numbers is what's at times difficult. But in this world, I think you have to. I'm confident you have to. One of my big things that the Knot too is, the Knot gets this rap that it's fake leads and all this stuff. There's nobody sitting out there sending fake leads, right? Yeah. And it drives me nuts. And trust me, I'm on every Facebook Wedding Pro page. Imagine when I see them on, if I'm not on it, 10 people are texting me saying, look what they're saying now, right? So, but they're saying these things based on a feeling or based on their reality, but they're not making changes to their business to improve it so that you can make educated decisions of where you're spending your money. Trust me, I have people canceling on me, and trust me, 4 months later, they come back because they realize that it was their fault because they're not booking anything on their website either. So like when you're the big thing of knowing your numbers, yes, to increase your bookings, but you want to be fiscally responsible with your money or your company's money or the owner's money or something like that. Like when I was running the venues, we did quarterly return on investment meetings, and all the venues that I sit on board of directors, we do quarterly ROIs, every single one. And we look at that and we like, well, this one didn't do so well, but is that our fault or is it their fault? What could we improve upon? And then let's try it for another quarter and see, so we can make good factual decisions of moving forward or not on something or increasing it.
Wow.
So.
All right. So what other factors should a business owner look at in addition to the numbers?
Reviews are one thing, right? Like this is outside of numbers, but your own reviews will tell you what you're doing well and what you can improve upon. You should be looking at reviews with other competition. Everybody's not your competition, right? But you probably know the 3 to 5 people that you're losing business to. Look at their reviews, right? Like look at their reviews because it's going to tell you the same thing, what they're doing well and what they could do better on, and you can capitalize on that. So I think reviews are way underutilized, way underutilized. How many people are looking at your Google Analytics? Kevin, you guys look at your Google Analytics?
I do. Yeah, that's something we do look at.
So, and you're making probably decisions
based on
Google Analytics. What are some of the things you look at for Google Analytics?
I just look at how many people go to the site and then how many people click the submit button. Yeah. And those are my two that I look at the most. So great. Are we getting enough views? Are we getting out of the views? Do we get enough people to, submit an inquiry?
Perfect. So you know that number.
Yeah.
I would look at bounce rate in your Google Analytics.
Yeah, well, I do look at that because it makes me nervous when someone just comes on our website and bounces. So, yeah.
And that gets back to the 12-second rule. They're coming on your website most likely to look at pricing. And if they
Yeah.
can't put pricing on your website within 12 seconds, they're bouncing. That's a whole nother podcast, because there's probably people out there listening to me right now saying, "Oh, I would never put pricing on my website."
No.
I'm going
So
to call
one
you.
thing, and one thing we did is we put a range. So we put a price range, and that I feel like we did that maybe 8 to 10 years ago, somewhere in that range. But we were getting tons of leads and our booking rate was down. And then once we were booking more, because the people are seeing real numbers, and they're feeling like what, and it's a range, and it's just not. And the other thing we did too is we took away a minimum. We used to have a minimum for our lighting company, and we found that was turning people off, and we took that away, and it went through the roof. Like, it was amazing, the difference.
Yeah, ABC testing. At the end of last year, or maybe halfway through last year, we did a study on, like, why is this couple replying to this lead rather than this lead, et cetera. Pricing was always the number one thing. And what we found, and what I'm preaching now big time, is the same situation you were doing 8 years ago. Price ranges from, making this up, 2,000 to 10,000. Couples usually spend 5. That couples usually spend is my ideal client. So in my first email response, I'm saying, whatever, congratulations. Yeah, but your date is available. This date's available. And my next price range is blank, blank couples usually spend. And it has to be quick and visible. And that seems to be working. Now, within your website too, I see lots of different ways that people are putting pricing. Just don't overwhelm them. Caterers and venues have an opportunity to overwhelm their couples with pricing. When my daughter and I were planning her wedding, I was Deadzilla, of course.
100%.
But I'd get these PDFs from caterers that are 27 pages long. I'm like, I've never looked at a catering menu in my life. As much as a caterer thinks that it's easy, to me, it was beyond impossible to understand. So, like, not responding to them because I don't understand it. So no. I think other numbers other than we went through for sure is, I've seen pros out there do customer satisfaction surveys. They'll do surveys after a wedding. Yes, we ask for the review, but they take it another step in surveys. And it's just a quick Google survey that comes back with, great tools to help improve your business. So,
yeah, I feel like, even a bad review is a good way to improve yourself, because, good or bad, you can take something out of it and learn from each of them. So,
right. Know where your numbers are coming from. Like, where are your leads coming from? Do not invest everything in one bucket. When I started this business, I don't know about you, Kevin, but like many years ago, you might have had a website.
I did not when I started. I'm that old. Yeah. So
you were probably in the phone book, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Book. If you had a lot of money, you did newspaper and radio and TV, but that's only if you had a lot of money, because that was so expensive. And you did the Not Wedding Wire and bridal shows.
It was the Yellow Pages and bridal shows. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
and a magazine ad, and a magazine ad in a wedding magazine. So,
yeah, and in this particular case study that I worked on, they did the work. I mean, they did the work, and it's not just this idea of know your numbers. Well, we got to then improve them, and the way you improve it is you A/B test this lead reply, you A/B test this subject line, you A/B test talking this way in a sales consultation. It's not an overnight thing. It just isn't. We are in engagement season coming up here. If people are struggling now, engagement season isn't the time to change your pricing, your marketing, your leader. You know what I mean? Unless you're really failing, you've missed boat. You should be looking at all these things year round, but you should be making adjustments to your business in June, July, and August at the latest, so that you have time to start testing September, October, November, December. You're good to go of what changes need to happen. Yeah. So 100% there.
All right. So what other tips and tricks do you have for us for making large decisions, in business? Other than to advertise with the nut.
Well, yeah, of course, but you need to be an option in my mind. But well, let's talk about that. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. I have people spending $80, $90, $200,000 with us, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about your SEO game. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have one. You're spending $150,000 with me. This was somebody 2 weeks ago, and you don't have an SEO game. You need to.
Yeah.
You can't put your eggs. You can't just put your eggs all in one basket.
All in one basket, yeah.
And it'll break your business, right? So I think the math will really decide of what you need to do. Like on the case study, when they were only receiving an average of 21 leads per month, they weren't getting enough leads. So what did we do? Is the SEO game is a long play game, and they didn't have the money to do Google AdWords. They just didn't, and all those things, and they perform as well anyway. So we looked at all the things where they had free advertising at, even their local things and things like that. We got them out there networking a lot more than they ever networked before. We improved their storefronts on the Not Wedding Wire, and they went from a professional listing to a featured vendor listing. So they spent more money with us. But they went from that almost immediately to that average of 21 leads to 70 leads.
Oh, wow.
They just put a little more effort into that. They put a little more money into it too. And sometimes you need to do that. And sometimes consulting people, I don't think you need to put more money in. You just need to do better with what you're already, you have. I'm Not Wedding Wire storefronts. Is your pricing there? Your About Us team there? Your search criteria? Like people's websites aren't linked right. People's, Instagrams aren't linked correctly. Stuff happens. Go in and check those things. So
we check ours every 3 months. That's kind of what we do.
That's better. I always used to say every time you get your teeth cleaned every 6 months, but you're right. Every quarter, everywhere you link. And then they have all the tools out there, like, what's it, Ahrefs, the free website checking tool that you can put in your website, and it will tell you how many broken links you have in your website.
Oh, I didn't know about that. What's it called?
Yeah. Ahrefs. Search free backlink checker, and there's a bunch of them comes up. You get so many free chances, but
wow,
that's a great one. So, email replies, in their case, they went to the 7 after 30, put them on hold for 10, and then they stopped. Okay. But we went through at least 4 different versions of those 7 email replies. Until they really started seeing a difference there. And they're now at 51%. But that didn't happen overnight either. That was months of testing. But it happened. It was better immediately, but it didn't ever hit that 51 versus that 20%. Their leads to consultations, right? So the numbers of leads that said hit reply, and then they had a sales concentration was 12, and it went to 32%.
Wow.
Their consultations to bookings, this was a win. Went up to 63%, from 30% to 63%. And their overall leads to booking percentage went to 6 to 11. If they wouldn't have done anything different, they would have booked 15 weddings. They ended with 34 bookings in 2024, not to their 50, but I just share that real life scenario because it takes time, right?
Yeah.
However, where they're sitting for 2025, they're already at 16 bookings for 2025. And if the numbers don't lie and the world doesn't, fall apart here, they're on track to do 92 weddings in 2025.
Oh, wow.
And numbers don't lie. So huge amount of work on their end, but they did the work. They did and it's not just a one shot bullet, silver bullet. One thing I do want to share too, in your lead replies that I'm seeing more and more people get responses to is putting a video in your lead reply. And everybody's like, I'll never do that. Why is video important? Gen Z consumes more video. This generation consumes more video than any other generation before, right? So imagine within your first lead reply, you have your normal template. You try to make it personal, but you do a quick Loom video and you say, hey, Kevin and Cindy, and show your personality and boom, seeing some decent results there. I believe in 3 years, if people aren't doing it, they're going to be really left behind. So
Oh, wow.
you might as well start doing it now. And remember, instead of 3 to 5, they're emailing 5 to 8. You might as well try to stand out.
Yes. And that would be one that would make you stand out.
Makes you stand. You can't do it on your phone. It has to be like on Loom Video. I have venues taking their laptops around, showing the video, showing the room. If it's on your phones for whatever reason, it seems to spur spam.
Oh, okay.
So like using Loom or Vidyard or something seems to be working. So
yep.
In my case study, they just started doing video. They just started doing, so I don't have any statistics for them right yet. But
amazing. All right. So we're getting to the end. So so many tips, so many things that we need to do that we've learned through this episode. So what are like the 3 tips that we need to do immediately? I think I have mine.
Okay. I would first off own that you can't make business decisions based on feelings. Yep. Somewhere to a sticky note that says facts, not feelings, right? Like, and put it on your laptop, put it on your wall, whatever. You're playing with your income or people's livelihoods when you're making decisions based on feelings. I mean, with the top 3, leads to booking percentage, your overall, total number leads to booking percentage, your consultations to bookings. Those should be easy numbers for you to figure out. From there, you then can go, okay, well, let's look at my emails leads to two-way conversations. And that should be an easy number. And then you can start making those tweaks. Shoot me an email all day long. I don't know how this turned into my job, but all day long, I look at people's email replies. They shoot them over to me in a Google Doc and they tag me on it. And then I'm just tagging. I try this. Advertise, don't advertise with, doesn't matter. I'm here to help. So
all right, fair enough. And I would say is you got to start looking at your lead percentage, like you said, was the biggest one. And automation was another one I came out with because you can't do it all by yourself. So those were the big 2. I don't know, one more. Let's see. I guess like really looking at the booking percentage as well. That's the biggest thing. Is like, there's a lot of numbers in there that I think a lot of us business owners don't look at. And like you said, it doesn't matter where the lead comes from. Take it all in there, and then you'll really figure it out.
So I say that it doesn't matter where the lead comes from. I agree with that. If you got a lead, it's a warm lead. If it's a referral, that's a hot lead. You should be booking more of those referrals. If you're, the venue give you leads or whatever, the plan or whatever that situation, you should be booking more of those. In this case study, they weren't getting any of those hot referral leads because they weren't on anybody's.
Because they don't network. Yeah.
They weren't networking. So would I take the referrals out? Yes, I think that's also a really good exercise to figure out how many referrals are you getting. Maybe the number's up, maybe it's down. Maybe you didn't realize the number's going down until you do that exercise. But every lead you get, no matter where it's coming from, is a warm lead. They found your information somewhere. You paid for that lead.
Somehow, some way.
Somewhere, some way. Even the referrals you have paid for, what can you do to improve it? Improve that overall percentage of bookings.
Yeah.
And what's a good number? The venues.
I think it's going to be different for everyone. That number's different. So
the venues that I worked at, we got about 6,000 leads per year. And we also did the exercise that how many leads per week could a sales rep handle and do everything else? Follow up on the leads, do the tours, write the contracts. They didn't service, but everything else that needed to be done. And I thought they can handle 60 leads a week easily, And the reality of it is, after we did the case studies, it was 40 leads a week. So what did we do? We hired another salesperson.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to take time with their leads. And all of a sudden, guess what? Our booking percentage went up. So again, that was all decisions based on facts.
Yeah.
The feeling was, for me, was 60. The feeling was 60, but the facts showed 40 leads.
Yeah, amazing. Well, there you go. That's our other tip,
There it is.
Yep. All right. So we always like to leave, Tom, with ask everyone what's their favorite part of a wedding. So what's your favorite part of a wedding? And it could be different. It's always different for everyone else. So what's your favorite part?
The ceremony.
Yeah,
because I'm old. It used to be the dancing, but now I'm the old uncle just sitting there. I think the ceremony. I don't know. I'm sentimental.
Yeah, I found since I've had kids, I get sentimental about it too. So I feel like it changes. It changes for everyone. I agree. All right, Tom. So real quick, we're gonna put it in the show notes. But what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Email. It'll be in the show notes. Please send me an email. I want to hear from you when things are good. I want to hear from you when things are bad, or things, any type of pain points that I can help you with. If I can't help you, I am the first to say I can't help you. Go to smart people like Kevin, or other SEO people, whatever that may be. But that's the cool thing about this job that I have is I love being that connector
to everyone. Yeah, no, there's a lot of power in being a connector. So, all right, Tom. Okay. I can't thank you enough. I learned a lot. I'm going to go. One of the things I'm going to do is go put my Flowdesk to work because I didn't know it would do automation. So
you're already going for it.
Yep. And why not use it? So anyway, all right, Tom, can't thank you enough. Look forward to seeing you in person the next time our paths cross. I always enjoy it. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Have a good day.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business podcast, brought to you by Wedding IQ. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me if you have a topic you would like for me to cover, or if you are in the area of your business you're struggling with, let us know. We'll be happy to help. I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. It helps others find our podcast so they can learn from our guests too. Thanks again for listening.